Another lesson, this was one of my favorites I've been trying to put a name to for ages as well. I'd been trying to work out what sort of friends I wanted to spend the most time around, and whether they were charismatic or sort of engaging, or what it was about them that made them magnetic to me. And I came up with this idea called reverse charisma. So Jenny Jerome, who is Winston Churchill's mother, who was Winston Churchill's mother, dined with both Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli and his rival, William Gladstone, on consecutive nights, back to back. And she got asked about her impressions of the two different men. And she said, when I left the dining room after sitting next to Gladstone, I thought that he was the cleverest man in England. But when I sat next to Disraeli, I left feeling like I was the cleverest woman. And I think most people assume that they want to be charismatic. They want their energy to be compelling, and their stories to be electric. They want to walk into a room and everybody be impressed, magnetized to them. But when I started to think about the friends I love and want to spend the most time with, they didn't necessarily have charisma. They had reverse charisma. And I guess the question is, why do certain people make us feel boring, but others don't? Why is it that we feel full of stories and inspiration around some people, but around others, we've got nothing to say? And we try to assess other people based on how interesting they are. And because of that, we miss a much more important issue, which is how interesting they make us feel. Like, how engaged is this person? And how much of us can they tolerate? And how much of our reality can they handle without us having to edit ourselves? How encouraging and reassuring are they? And how much do they make us want to dig deeper and talk more? And how comfortably can we sit in silence without needing to fill it? That basically, how much of us do they get? And if it's not a lot, then we're inevitably going to be cautious. And a person feels interesting precisely to the extent that they have become familiar and at ease with the things that are extreme and sad and dark and agonizing and shameful and joyous and exciting. And if they are at home with their own strangeness, then they help us to feel at home with ours. Where they have gone, we can follow. What they have felt safe exploring in themselves, we will be able to safely unpack around them. And this was the sort of realization that architecting your charisma is a nebulous and scrappy task that autistic pickup artists gave themselves existential crises failing at. But building reverse charisma is something that anyone can do by being curious and patient and encouraging. Some people feel interesting. Some people make us feel interesting. And there's a place for both, but on average, our favorite people are the latter, not the former. And it's way easier to be someone who makes people feel interesting than it is to be interesting. Like, that was the whole point with the pickup artist movement, that they had these flowcharts and 5-step plans for, if I'm going to open and then I'm going to twist the lemon and neg the Kino escalation. And dude, all of this to try and come across as somebody who's interesting. There was this study done where they asked a study participant to take a flight in a plane, and somebody sat next to them, and that was one of the plants. The plant was told that they needed to keep the person talking for the entirety of the flight, but not disclose any information about themselves. When they'd come off the plane, they asked the person who had been sat next to the plant, "How was the flight?" And they said, "Oh, it was brilliant, actually, really lovely." He said, and what were the other passengers like? We're just doing a little survey. So it was amazing. I had these great conversations. This guy was so interesting. "Oh, okay. Can you tell us their name?" "Oh, no. Oh, okay. Could you tell us where they were from or what they did or anything?" And they realized, no, but some people feel interesting. Some people make us feel interesting. And maybe it's just a byproduct of the fact that so few people want to have a collaborative conversation. and that a lot of the time it's this game of tennis where you're waiting for the other person to hit the ball so that you get your chance to hit the ball so that they get their chance to hit the ball, as opposed to you trying to tee them up for the best shot that you can. We even tried to do this in a George Mack's 30th in Miami. So we had the pickleball court at the house that we were staying, where everybody was at, and football. And George used to do football freestyle. I'm aware it doesn't look like he used to do that, but I promise you he was world class at doing it. And I thought, well, this would be really cool because we can do sort of a game of foot tennis type thing. And we were all getting super competitive, but it wasn't a very beautiful game. So I was like, yeah, why don't we change the rules for a little bit? Why don't we just try and make the most beautiful game we can? So the whole point of the game was to put the ball into positions that yourself or the other team or the guy that was on your side could do something cool with. So as opposed to trying to win, you were trying to make it interesting. And immediately George's response was, yeah. And then we can count how many we do and we can see if we can get more. And I'm like, no, you're fucking doing the dopamine thing again. That compulsion to sort of achieve or to win or to sort of drive things forward is really, really good. But it's not necessarily needed when you're sat around the dinner table with some friends. So just realizing it's not necessarily always your job to be the interesting one. It's other people's jobs to make you feel interesting by opening up questions to you that cause you to think more deeply. Another one is that point around why to certain people do we have lots to say and to others we don't have anything at all. Is that your fault? Because you're the same person between these two different people. The difference is the people. So that suggests that there's something going on within them that is causing you to feel more or less comfortable with opening up about yourself. And on top of that, it means that the people who make you feel really comfortable are exciting and interesting, even though they don't actually need to be interesting. So anyway, I think reverse charisma, much easier way to be interesting. And we could all do with cultivating a bit more of it.